Crazy year is that? What kind of crazy number is that? Crazy. And we're live. Tweet out my update, get my notebook. Excited to do some board game ideas today. It's like last week we were talking about Nemesis. Did have some good suggestions on Twitter for Senior Bob's suggestion for a game with it gets so cold in Florida that iguanas fall from the trees. And I got a surprising number of fabulously punny names. Alex Cannon suggested Iguana Falls, Iguana Droppings, Senior Bob, also very good. Matthew Legult's Iguana Get Crazy is also quite excellent. So a lot of great suggestions in there. Hello, Senior Bob. Welcome, welcome. Game Biologist says, everything was fun until I started playing the worst game ever. Finding affordable lodgings for Gen Con that won't contain horrifying surprises. Love the one review that talked about blood on the bed linens. Oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Don't go there. Don't go to there. Be safe. Yeah. So we'll get to our concepting in a moment. I do want to talk a little bit about Gen Con housing because, yeah, it's tough. Gen Con is the most expensive convention that I go to every year. Even the year we went to Essen 2 years ago, it was more expensive for us to go to Gen Con than to fly to Germany and go to Essen, because the hotels around Essen are surprisingly reasonable. I think a lot of people come in by train or something. And we even got our hotel bookings pretty late towards the convention. Gen Con is definitely tough, especially now because for the Airbnbs, people kind of, the Airbnb owners there know about Gen Con now and kind of jack up the prices. I would suggest, if you get the Gen Con tickets, they'll open up the housing portals, and if you get a lucky pull with the housing portal, then you'll be able to get decently priced hotels. That's one option. If you're late in the housing portals, you get in like 3 p.m. on the Sunday that it opens up, then the only hotels you'll see in there are like 15 or 20 miles away. There's actually better hotels. The airport's pretty reasonable. If you rent a car, or even just with Ubers and Lyfts and that kind of thing, it's pretty decent to be able to get some. Basically, even if you miss out on the housing portal, there's some places farther away. Most people want to walk, so there's some stuff that opens up. The other option is, if you can at all manage to work with any of the companies, cover some booth hours. There's a whole really big block of hotels, rooms that are dedicated towards the vendors and other people. So whatever you can do to get into one of those blocks, you can get much more reasonably priced lodgings. So it's tough. Even PAXs now are easier and more reasonable to get lodgings with. Indianapolis is just like, it's very small for the size of that Gen Con has gotten to. So it's a little tricky getting reasonable housing there. Senior Bob says, sort of fortunate I can drive there. Opt out for farther out housing and drive into town. Yeah, and even parking. I've never actually tried to park, so I don't know how crazy that is, but yeah, it's tough. Game Bell just says, Southside Hotel I got a couple years back for $130 a night. This year they're asking around $200 a night. Yep. Always do the 20 to 30 minute commute hotel. Helps me remember to go away and sleep every night. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, the driving definitely helps out a little bit. Not having to fly there and having your car. Again, I can't speak to the parking at all, but staying a little farther away, there's definitely reasonable stuff. I think even people get into the housing portal, I think they can get a little trapped in there. It's definitely one of the conventions where checking different things, seeing if people are doing Airbnbs that you can share, going on Expedia and different places with deals. It's a little tough, but there's definitely, I still find it worth it to go to the show. Is it even the biggest now? Is PAX Unplugged bigger than that? I think it's still the biggest board game convention specifically in the country. Even if PAX does get bigger, it's different. PAX has a different vibe to it. So it's a fun show. If you can swing it, figure out a way to work it. Even splitting a room with people. I know that's not everybody's thing, and that's totally cool. But if you can get 2 queen beds in a room, go for half cost. That can be nice too. Senior Bob, but I would really like to get within walking distance. I mean, I have to agree with that. I like the idea of going home and sleeping every night, but it is pretty nice and chill to be able to walk just for, if you're buying games and wanting to drop them off at your hotel. Although I definitely can vouch for and speak to the shipping games home from Gen Con. They have the, I forget what the company is called, but you just go there and they package the game. They take a little while to get to you, but not having to worry about the weight in your suitcase is definitely good. But if you want to drop something off, grab a jacket, take a 30-minute break before dinner, the walking distance thing, if you can swing it, is definitely fun. More games, please. Hello. Oh my gosh, yes. That would be so cool if you could go to Gen Con. You should... Yeah, if you can work for a company there and get in on the hotel block, I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely a way to do it for... And there's a lot of... Depending on the company, it can be very different how much they can support you. Honestly, just getting those hotel block slots, even if they don't cover the hotel or cover the total travel, can be a huge savings and a huge difference. Because the hotels in the vendor hotel block, they're not upcharged. Anything you're going to get on an open site such as Expedia, all the prices are jacked up, whereas the prices on the vendor block or the Gen Con specific block are a lot more reasonable. Emailer says, I got to park in the lot last year next to the White Castle where the drunk judges picked a fight and got shot. Jesus. But I parked there where there's history. Then your mom says, I know of folks that pretty much pile into a couple of rooms. Yeah, for the young. So getting into my late 30s now, I'm definitely I can't sleep on floors. I have so much trouble sleeping anyways that having a few people in there and someone snoring, I'm just I'll be miserable if I can't sleep because of people being loud or people wanting to stay up. It gets super weird. More Games Please says, might be there via Alley Cat, but not 100% on that yet. City of Games HQ, hello. Thanks for checking in. More Games Please. BGG Con was great as I was sharing a room with 5 people. Busy but cheap. Luckily I had a bed and I sleep like I've been knocked out. Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous about that. That's the one thing, if I could change one thing about myself, it would be sleeping. I used to be able to. There was a brief window in college where, because my roommate would play music and things and have the light on, so I got used to conking out. And I was getting a ton of exercise back then as well. But yeah, just lay down and pass out. It's sounds like a glorious, beautiful world. I want to go to there. Also having a bed is good. And there's hacks that you can do. Not even really hacks. You can get a pull-out bed. They'll loan you beds in a lot of hotels. Even just some hotels have nice couch cushions. bringing a camping pad, or even just going to a store there if you have a car, especially, and go to a Target or something and grab some cheap pillows or a cheap inflatable air mattress for $20. You don't need it to last a lifetime, just need it to last a couple of days. More games, please. Says, I remember when I was younger and lived in a shared house, quickly learned the difference between a chilled housemate and an easily annoyed housemate. How light of a sleeper they were. Yep. Oh man. It's kind of a curse, and it's sad because it comes off as you just being, easily annoyed or mad. It's like, it's not my fault. If I could sleep very easily, I feel like I would be a much more chill person. Oh, hi, you want to be on stream now. Can you see this cat here? You can see a little bit of his tail. Cool. So that's my Gen Con spiel. This is gonna be, I think my 5th year going to Gen Con, so always happy to answer questions for people interested in going. I feel like I've learned a little bit about it, stayed at a bunch of different locations, had different experiences there. Presuming that I'm still doing the Gen Con streaming, because last year I went with Gen Con and did a bunch of interviews there, which was super fun. So hopefully be going there and doing that this year. And also, exciting game news. I think I've been teasing this for a while. Not quite ready to announce it yet, but I should have a really exciting, fun game available at that point. So this year should be pretty exciting for me, convention-wise. City of Games HQ says, when I'm at a convention, I need my own room. Sleep is so challenging and limited. The idea of sharing with other people would break me. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, City of Games. There's such a divide against people, and I think because some people are almost offended. People ask you if you're traveling to conventions, like, oh, we should share a room, we're really great, save some money. And having to say no to that, I don't know, makes me feel almost spoiled. It's like, even people you like, my best friends. I'm like, I can't share a room with you. I'm sorry. I know, like, it might make it a little harder for you to attend this convention, but if I don't sleep during the convention, it's going to be miserable for all of us. And the people who do it more comfortably, I know a lot of my friends don't need a lot of sleep. They get 4 hours of sleep and they're totally fine. Or, like you, more games, please. They'll just conk out super easily. So I'm very appreciative of people's needs for sleep and also other stuff too. Just having that sense of privacy, having a place to go back, not having to coordinate schedules, especially if you're working at a con. I think if I were to go to a convention for fun, which I've hardly ever done in my life, I've pretty much only ever worked conventions. If I was to do it purely for fun, I think it would be a lot easier, a lot more chill. But if you're working, you got to be on your best foot, your best face forward. Senior Bob says, definitely one that needs my own room. See, I'm glad to have more people in this chat so we can talk about it as own room needers. And I often travel with my husband too, so it is easier that way having another person. So we are already kind of splitting the costs, getting 2 people into a room, but that makes it even harder, if you're there with your significant other or partner and having another person in the room. That's can be a little weird. Yeah, you're a cat. I love that when I sit down to stream, this is when you need the most attention. Cool. But yeah, I'm excited. I already started to look at my convention schedule for the year. Maybe I could take a quick peek at that. I'm trying to, so it is 2020, it's a new year. One of my goals, I haven't written out all my goals yet, but one thing I am trying to do is become a little more structured, plan things a little in advance, because convention-wise, I often find myself flying by the seat of my pants. No matter how hard I'll try. all of a sudden be like, oh, PAX East is in 3 weeks. Should I go to that and have this crazy running around trying to plan stuff? Yeah. So I have my convention list. I'm going to pop up on screen real quick. First check, make sure there's like no weird notes about, because some of the stuff, I don't want to like call out any conventions. Some of them I'll have notes like never go to this convention ever again. I wanted to put Terminal City Games Convention. So I've curated my list to, first of all, ones that I know about, and second of all, ones that I've found to be pretty good. I was trying to do a structure where I would try a new convention, 1 or 2 new conventions every year, and then filter out the ones that I didn't enjoy, but I seriously haven't really been to very many conventions that weren't enjoyable. So it's hard to hone down the list. City Tabletop. But I think with this year, again, I've been working my way through the magical art of tidying, Marie Kondo's book. I've been working through the Chaos to Creativity book, trying to cut things that aren't really good fits for what I'm focusing on right now. 28th through 29th. I'm going to put this as a maybe. It's in Vancouver. So it's close enough to maybe pop over there for a day. Could be something that I could fairly easily check out. Yeah, so my goals for conventions this year is to figure out what I'm doing. I'm in an interesting place now where I have people who I'm kind of talking about with games, so I don't even need to super pitch a lot of stuff. I have, again, a game that should be out hopefully very soon. I can talk about very soon, so that might take a lot of my focus for the year. So I might even just be going to these conventions to talk about that game and just be around and be available. OrcaCon, I'm going to be a special guest, so I'm going to be there. Stumptown, haven't really thought about that. Again, it's kind of close, so potentially. PAX East, again, I want to figure out when exactly this game is launching. That might be a good one to go to. Gamma for sure. Actually, ECCC, I might have to change to a maybe, because there was a thing between Gamma and GDC, so I might not actually be coming back up north between Gamma and GDC and do like a whole road trip thing in between those two. GDC, I haven't promoted it yet, I really need to, but I'm doing a talk at the board game portion of the Game Developers Conference, so very excited about that. Maybe San Diego Comic-Con. Maybe Origins, probably. Gen Con for sure. And PAX West, yeah, it's here local. Yeah, so I haven't planned completely far out, but got some fun stuff coming up. Game Aldis says, the first year I went to Gen Con, I was reading the housing forums, saw folks selling off space in their bed after selling off the floor space. Oh my gosh, that's so weird. The guy was saying they'd be picky because his girlfriend wasn't super comfortable with randos sleeping in bed with them. Gen Con is a unique space. I still budget a room by myself. No bed sharing with internet randos. Oh my gosh. Wait, so like 3 people in a bed together? Wow. Yeah, that's super crazy. Senior Bob says, so I went to a small con in Iowa last weekend. I'll be going to another small con this weekend. Oh, fun. In Wisconsin. Ooh. Also be at Protospiel, Minnesota. Nice. Where's Grand Con in your listing? September 4th through 6th. I will add that to my list. I know it depends on when PAX West is, because sometimes I believe they overlap. I'm going to add that on here because it's definitely one that is on my list of heads up. September 4th through 6th. Senior Bob, which is the one in Wisconsin? It's kind of looking at Google Maps. Maps.
I don't understand.
Oop, I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking to you. Because now that I have a car, which I'm still super excited about, I'm starting to realize, like, Wisconsin's not that far of a drive, right? It's only like 2 days. That could be a fun road trip. Probably not. I probably shouldn't drive there. But flight-wise, it's not that bad. Protospiel, Minnesota. Time to hack the spreadsheet. Nice. Remember, if you don't go to Grand Con, we'll all just talk about you behind your back. No, I don't want that. EverCon 2020. That's a cool name. 20th anniversary. Fun. January 10th. Wait, did that already happen? Oh, no, wait. That's that's this weekend. I'm like, I don't know how time works. Okay. Yeah, that's the same time as OrcaCon, which I will be attending. This is cool. Yeah, that's one of the tough thing about planning out all these conventions. There's just so many of them, which is fantastic. If you want to go to a convention every weekend, you can. I know there's some companies that do 60 or 70 or 80 conventions a year, multiple locations per weekend. It's crazy. Ooh, or EverCon, and there's Protospiel Madison. Interesting, I've never been to a Protospiel before. So that seems cool. Yeah, that is one thing I will say about living in the Midwest. Y'all seem to have, oh, fun, even more conventions. I feel like we have a good number of conventions, but being on the coast, there's only a certain number of cities, whereas being in the middle-ish of the country, there's Wisconsin and Utah and Michigan and all those places always have a lot of fun stuff going on. Cool. Well, that's probably enough convention talk for Wisconsin. Has a bunch of conventions. Nice. Yeah, so to any of our viewers who are interested in conventions and haven't been to them before, man, I wish I had a good resource for a list. I know somebody's got a master list going on. I can always share my list, but my list is kind of weird and focused on the West Coast, and then certain ones that I've established a relationship with. But no matter where in the country you are, there's tons of conventions, and going to one like OrcaCon this weekend, which is going to be in Bellevue, a lot of those smaller local cons can be a great entry into the con scene because there's a lot less pressure than some of the big ones, and people often develop a strong personal relationship, and that becomes your favorite convention of the year. Cool. Good convention talk. Again, I go to a ton of conventions. If you ever have any questions, just let me know. But yeah, let's hop into the game designs. Get back over here to our design doc. Designs and games. Yeah, so as far as the start of our brainstorming goes, we have this iguana. Dropping iguanas. I want to copy over all of these tweets because we have some fantastic names here. Iguana Get Crazy. By Matthew Legault, which I like because it kind of sounds like it's going to get crazy, or I'm going to get crazy. Iguana Droppings. I mean, that's just fun and punny and excellent. You see, this might be good because Abandon All Artichokes was name first design, so I think name first design can be a very legitimate style of game design. Iguana Falls, Near a Waterfall by Alex Cannon is another fun one. And this, we already have our stream title for our highlight reel. And this one. So we're already off to a good start for this game design concept stream. I think, and because it's the beginning of the year and you're going to get some fresh new design energy, I'm going to focus on another stream of just spewing out all sorts of fun ideas, maybe coming up with a fun iguana game. Just brainstorming and ideating and having some cool ideas. I'm going to copy this tweet. Why won't it let me copy you? Oh, there we go. Because this was the original one that Senior Bob posted. If y'all want some background on what the heck we're talking about. Yeah, as I mentioned, as far as the things that I'm working on right now, I've been taking it a little easy, just thinking through my processes and developing some systems. So don't have a ton of progress on my own games, on the games front. So instead of working on what I'm working on, we're gonna come up with some new ideas. A good con list starting point, the one by Maple Mountain, excellent. Thank you, Game Biologist, by posting that. It's always good to have some fun resources like this. Ooh, add your own event. 539 events, nice. Let's see, how many are in, I guess US is gonna be, oh, and then it's just by individual states. How many are in Washington? Wisconsin, Texas, Virginia, okay. Wow, there's a lot in Washington, huh. Okay, I know about pretty much all of these, but there's some I haven't heard of, so that is a very handy resource. Fine. Iguanas. Game Bell just says, I touristed to see the iguanas years ago when I was visiting Florida. They're a noxious invasive species and have infested the beaches on one island. It's way crazy. Oh, wow. Cool. This is a good piece of background information to have. I think it's important when you're potentially working with a real world theme to know a little bit of the background, because that's an important thing. If I was thinking about seeing this picture of iguanas, just think, oh, they're super cute, I want to have a game with dropping iguanas. But it's important to balance that with knowing that they're an invasive species. It's like, yeah, they might be cute, but they're also kind of problematic and bad for the environment. Maybe it's like you're trying to hunt the iguanas to manage their species. That sounds kind of dark. I don't know if I necessarily want to do a hunting game or hunting species to reduce, but that's reducing the number of an invasive species. I think because we had talked about deer too, because that's, I mean, deer, depending on the location, at least in Maine where I grew up, deer aren't an invasive species, but their numbers need to be managed. And I think the number of hunting licenses they provide every year is based off of, you know, if there's a surge in the deer population, they actually encourage people to hunt the deer. And a lot of people who hunt the deer use the meat as an important part of their diet. So I think that there's ways that you can treat it, treat the subject well, but it's also, I don't know, just me, even knowing that you can do it in a positive way, it still feels a little grim to me. Game Ball just says the game of the goal is to shoot them with a freeze ray. It is now. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna put the note on my fancy mind map that I have going here. I'm gonna put freeze ray. I'm thinking one potential direction is a dexterity game. Dexterity dame. So something about, I'm not sure how exactly you would, maybe you would have a pole that was the tree, and each of the branches would be like a flat surface extending out of it. Oh my gosh. And now I have to draw an iguana. I have to go back to that picture. I have no idea what an iguana looks like. Okay. It doesn't look like that at all. It's got like a weird crocodile face and then a long tail. And it's spiky on the back, sure. And like long arms. Crocodile head, long arms, tail, and spikes. Alright. So this is me drawing iguanas. I'm glad that you're all witnessing this masterpiece. It's got its long arms. Cool, you get the idea. So, iguanas sitting on here, and then you throw something. Or maybe blow on them. Rampage style. Couple different directions. I just like the idea of little iguana standees. You're trying to knock them off the tree in some way. Or you go the other direction. You want to do the first. Dexterity. Knock them off the trees. Other direction. Okay, I might do the second. Dexterity, catch them as they're falling, put them in baskets, maybe you're building up to them falling in some way. So I'm picturing they're on the branch, the temperature is measured in some way, and then certain ones start falling off at certain times. Temperature is, I don't know how to do that physically. Some ways iguanas fall. You never know which one's gonna fall. You just have a bunch of them perched in a way. Maybe it's like the game with the marble and the sticks where you're pulling things out and their supports are dwindling. Over time to represent their dwindling dexterity. Their dwindling ability to stay in the trees. Which is sad. I mean, it's kind of funny to think about walking around and iguanas are hitting you in the head but it's kind of sad to think of them being up there and they get so cold they fall down. I feel bad for them, even if they are invasive. My heart is too soft. My heart, I can't handle it. My feels, hurts me in the feels. Let's make a game about cane toads in Australia. Oh, I'm guessing it's another invasive species. Yeah. Background on the iguana situation. Thank you, game biologists. Iguana population and damage booms. Florida's not sure what to do about it. Excellent. Good reading material here. Always good to do some research. Maybe rescue the iguanas from the wild by freezing them so you can collect them. Once they defrost, they get adopted by happy kids. Iguana go home. Oh my gosh, I love it. I like that. Yeah. You see, that's... Put a positive spin on it. Right? Have them rehomed from the wild into being happily owned by people. That sparks interesting questions. I know with certain animals are easier to take out of the wild and be pets. I don't know exactly the best way to put that. I know like feral cats can be hard. If it's an older cat, it can be hard to just take it out of the wild. Sometimes they never become good pets. I don't know how good pets are. Iguanas are. Here, I'm gonna put it this way. Does a wild iguana make a good pet? I don't see why not. I know some lizards do fun stuff, or like walk on your arm or something, but for a lot of them, they just kind of sit there, right? Do iguanas bite? Do iguanas change color? Do iguanas make good pets? Iguanas are certainly one of the most popular lizards to ever been kept as a pet. Strict feeding and housing requirements. Can grow quite large, live a long time, and can be quite strong. Sounds like a dangerous pet. But we'll leave that for the parents to worry about. We don't have to worry about that. Maybe one person plays the iguanas, which try to climb high up in the tree to get out of range of the freeze ray. I like that. Have an asymmetrical game here. Kind of like a two-player game. One person playing the iguanas and one person playing the rehomer. Makes me think of Raptor a little bit, where one person plays as the mama raptor, the scientist trying to steal her babies. Theme just seems ideal for a deck building game. Sounds more like worker placement. Think of Kerplunk. Yeah! Kerplunk. That's definitely... and there's that nesting game, too. Oh, Go Cuckoo. Yeah! Oh, fun. Go Cuckoo is another one along those line of games. Fun cane toad story. There's a native rat that's figured out how to eat cane toads, and they're teaching their young. So yay rats. Now the rats are the rats are our friends. It's like the vermin that once tried to kill us are now on our side. Iguanas are common in the pet trade. Yeah, yeah. Man, I always used to want to have a snake. I know it's not exactly the same, but they're both reptiles. Lizards kind of scared me, especially with the biting. I don't know, maybe snakes bite too. But just the idea of having one of those really big snakes. I never actually went through with it, because when I thought about actually doing it, it seemed kind of scary. But There's something in me that wanted a pet snake. Yeah, I think we were talking about the cane toads and the rats at some point. Cool. So that's one potential direction. In that case, it might not be dexterity exactly. And it wouldn't even necessarily have to be a vertical stacking. Well, this would be a fun component. You could have stacking represented on a board with a tree and different branches. And you just put your blocks or your meeples branches. Move iguanas around board. It could be a simultaneous reveal game. A little bit like Walk the Plank, where if you're doing an asymmetrical version, one person's placing the iguanas and one person is targeting the different locations and trying to catch them. I will say this might be a good way to prototype the game, but there is something that's a little not quite as satisfying. If you pitch a game and say, oh, you're moving your iguanas up the tree, and then you're trying to catch the one person is trying to move them, one person is trying to catch the iguanas. Describing it as moving things up a tree and then you're logistically moving it around on a board is not as sad as it can be. A little bit disappointing. I'm thinking about this game. Yeah. Tiki Topple. I didn't get a chance to play it, so I don't want to say too much about it, but looking at the box of it, you have little pieces and it makes you think of stacking and dexterity games have a very particular vibe to them. They can be very compelling, very easy for different people to hop into, for kids to get into, so the people who like them really enjoy them. So for this Tiki Topple game, I was just like looking at the box and looking at the picture. I'm like, oh, the thing's gonna fall down. And in fact, they didn't actually fall down. It was a little sad for me. So pitching to a person that you're gonna move the iguanas up the tree and then you don't physically move them up a tree could eventually be a little disappointing. But you could make a tree component. I wonder if there's other games like that that have a fun tree component. I guess there's Tic Tac Lumberjack. There's the Lumberjack game where you hit the things with the tree, hit the logs with the tree. And there's games, there's a lot of tree games that have small tree minis, Bosk and Photosynthesis. Just having like a cool central tree piece, that could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. I don't know, it wouldn't even have to be iguanas, although that could be a fun theme. Board games with trees. Before you get too much into an idea like this, I like to look and make sure there's not something too similar. Oh, Tiny Trees, competitive tree going board game. Huh. Is that recent? That looks kind of cool. That was last year, huh? There's a vertical, I'm going to post this You're building the tree, which is fun. Or Kodama, you're also building a tree, but having things sit on parts of a tree, I don't think that's been done before. It's definitely an interesting potential direction to go in. I've never heard of snakes biting. Is that... I guess so, because they usually, unless they're poisonous, right? Poisonous snakes bite. Usually snakes just swallow something whole instead of biting it. Gameologist says, I've heard of snakes eating small dogs and cats in the household. Yeah, the more popular pet species outside herpetology circles seem to be mostly constrictors. So they don't eat until the food has already been suffocated. Gameologist says, make a full-on Everdell tree, but with dead-eyed lizard creatures instead of cute furry woodland beasties. Yeah, exactly. Dead-eyed, man. Yeah, because that has the tree. I haven't played Everdell yet. It's definitely one that I should check out. Because I don't... So you have the cool creatures in here. Yeah, something along the lines of an Everdell tree. But maybe there's a little bit of a dexterity element. Maybe the tree, the branches are different sizes. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to start writing some notes over here. 2-player symmetrical, 1-player iguanas, 1-player with a freeze ray. Okay, so I have a visually appealing tree that you assemble. Branches are shaped differently. Shaped differently. The iguana player has to place the iguanas on the branches. Dexterity element. The human player trying to predict where the other player will place iguanas, play their cards first. Yeah, branches are shaped differently. Some are easier to balance on. So there's an idea of a tree that you assembled during setup, or it does make me think a little bit of Men at Work. And what's cool about Men at Work is that you're placing the girders down, but then sometimes you have to place bricks, or you place the workers on the girders, you place the girders on the workers, you place bricks on the workers. So you're building this unstable structure and you have to put other small things on top of it. So it could be fun that maybe you're building up the tree and then placing the iguanas on it. Maybe both of you are playing, or maybe everyone is playing iguanas, and there's something like you're trying to avoid an AI programmed person or a one versus many situation. There's a few different ways to go with that. Check out the precarious balance of the structure in Gravity's Edge. What? Oh my gosh. Huh. That's cool. Men at Work is pretty fun. If you hadn't have a chance to check it out, I would definitely suggest it. Okay, so, or there's one human player and multiple iguana Such a weird word. Players. The players are building the tree as the game progresses to freeze iguanas or avoid being frozen. Alternately, you could all be iguana players within AI programmatic human player. So that could be cool. Maybe you have yes, I wanted to copy this link. The Gravity's Edge. That's a cool dexterity thing. Actually, I think that could potentially be. There's the balancing element to it too. That's super cool. So it could be plastic components like that, or like in Cat Tower or Rhino Hero, folded cards with like either flat cards or folded to give a little more space for you to put your iguanas. Oh, that could be cool. And maybe they're kind of flimsy, so if you get too many iguanas, they overload the leaf and everyone falls off. That could be fun. Branches could be folded cards, like in Cat Tower, or even just physically building a tree. That could be super fun. So you could have. So I guess I don't know if this thematically would make sense, but it might look more like a pine tree. So this is a cardboard structure. And then has maybe like little flat cutouts, little triangular divots. These are cutouts. And as play progresses, you're sticking branches in. Maybe they're on different sides like that. And your branch, let's see. Yeah, it could be a long, narrow kind of, not a folded card shape, but a custom cutout shape. Oh, like, how do I draw this? Yeah. This is probably a lot longer than it would actually be. Some sort of thing like that. So you get to choose, and maybe you have a supply of these, and you get to choose where you're putting the branches. And some of the branches are smaller, support fewer iguanas, but if they're higher up, they're less likely to be hit by the freeze ray. So say this is version A with the tree tower that you construct during gameplay. Have a tall cardboard pyramid with slots to insert folded, unfolded cardstock. And that could be cool. If they're folded, then they're more likely to support the iguanas, but if you're just balancing a flat card, like up here near the top, it just kind of sticks out like that, then maybe you can put a couple of iguanas on there. But then another player can put their iguana on it and cause the whole pile to topple. I like that being an element of push your luck. Folded, unfolded card stack. Balance your iguanas on branches. Push your luck. If you put an iguana on, might overload the branch. All come tumbling down. This is feeling maybe like a kid's family game. And if so, I like what they do with the dice. Pretty sure Men at Work has the dice. Cat Tower definitely has the dice. Rhino Hero, I think Animal Upon Animal has the dice. So they basically roll the dice to decide what you're going to do. And that makes the game a little bit easier than having to think and decide, am I going to place a branch, am I going to place an iguana, which makes it a little more strategic, but raises the age base for it. Whether you place a branch, small or large, maybe there's different dice bases for that. Iguana, maybe 2 dice. 1 for branches, 1 for number of iguanas. Maybe you're forced to place an iguana alone or with other iguanas. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with that. And maybe okay, this might be able to roll the theme into it without having to have an AI element to it. Maybe when you overload a branch, that represents your pod of iguanas being hit with a freeze ray. You all freeze and fall off. I kind of like that. Important for those of you that are watching the stream, if anyone can tell me what a group of iguanas is called, that would be very useful information. I remember talking in the car recently about different groups of animals and the names for them and how cool they are. So it'd be good to know what a group of iguanas is. I think it's very important, essential for the game. Senior Rob says, just sent you a pic through Twitter of tree thing that I made. You hit arms at the base to rotate the tree, which can knock cubes tokens off. Might work for this theme. Something that you made? Nice. It's exciting. Ooh, fun. Oh, wow. Is that for a game that you made? That looks super fun. Yeah, that's perfect. I like that a lot. If it could have some wood components, that would be super fun. I think this might be, potentially pitchable to Haba. I wonder if they have any iguana games. Weird. There's 2 different things here. One says that a group of iguanas is called a slaughter, and one says that a group of iguanas is called a mess. I thought a slaughter was for crows. I like a mess of iguanas. It's a little less dark. A mess. A group of iguanas. Cool. tree trunk could be wood. That would be fun, maybe with insertable cardboard pieces. Definitely a lot to play around with there. I think for prototyping something like this, just playing around with different physical shapes is probably going to be the best way to test out a game. Oh, I had done them cutouts like that, but it might make more sense. It might be easier to construct. I mean, it could be a wooden beam structure and then just cut straight slots out of this. A V would be a little bit harder to produce. Was it rectangular prism? Such a weird name. Cube is such a better name. Rectangular prism. Or beam. These are just straight cuts into the wood. That would definitely be easier to produce from a prototyping perspective. St. Rob made it intending to use it for a game, but never thought of a theme for it. It's a murder of crows. Okay. Still don't think slaughter is right for iguanas, but there's two names for it, so I don't know what's happening there. Yeah, that's a really cool component, Senior Bob. Those could all, yeah. See, I mean, I can make the iguana game. If you want to make this iguana game, though, we can... you already have this super cool component. I like that little hammer thing, too. That's really cool. See, if you ever need a theme for things, just pop into here. We come up with, I don't know, sometimes 10 or 12 themes in a single stream. So, all sorts of fun ideas here. Zero says, maybe you need to charge your freeze ray, and you need it supercharged to knock out a bunch of iguanas. Yeah, there could definitely be an interesting timing element there. Easier to do straight cuts. Maybe angular cuts. Component-wise, there's definitely some interesting things there. I said it would probably be easier to prototype it in cardboard before doing the wood and playing around with different cuts and shapes. Cool. Yeah, honestly, like, that's pretty well fleshed out as a game design idea. It could potentially evolve from there, but I like the simplicity of it, just iguanas falling off the branches. I think that's fun, simple, pretty easy to prototype, and just stacking things on floppy paper that will eventually bend. Durability wise, I'm gonna do durability question marks with the pieces flexing. It might not be a super durable game, but I like that core concept. Iguanas. Core concept of balance, dexterity, some branches tilted, the flexible cardstock component in it eventually bends and dumps all the objects balanced on it. Are there other games that deal with that kind of flexibility of paper? I There's lots of different dexterity games there. But specifically balancing stuff on a flexible component that can be overweighted. No. I don't think I've seen anything like that. Oh. Never thought of things climbing off the tree. Just thinking more of knocking fruits out of the tree. That's fun too. Game Bella says, makes me think of those old silver Christmas trees. I've got one from the 60s. It's a fat dowel and angled holes drilled into it. The branches are assembled onto metal rods. Seems like a fancy version of my plastic Christmas tree that I have. Oh, that's cool. I like the assembling nature of it, and it's stainless aluminum. Looks very durable. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna copy that link as well. That could, having it be rods and holes for the branches could be an even better component because you could have a little more control over the shape. You can just have a bunch of holes throughout. Your components could look like this. Could even be a leaf shape. Or a branch. Could even be with paper, but one end is rolled. Rolled at one end for insertion. Yeah, a lot of that's going to come down to the manufacturing and what would be easier. It might be easier to stick it on, like glue it onto a dowel. Holes could be circular. Branches are glued to a small dowel or rolled at one end. Cool. So there's a few different ways that could be played around with. It's fun. I like that. There was a garbage game that came out a couple of years ago. Had the flexible cards with pieces falling off. Ooh, cool. As always when I talk about this, it's not totally necessary to, like, you don't always necessarily want to see what other games exist in the space before working on a game. It can be a detriment and slow down your creative process. During the brainstorms, and again, if you make a game, even that's themed like something that you know exists, so you're probably going to make a completely different game. But I do, if it's something with interesting components, I like to see what's come before, both for research purposes, so I can see what they did, maybe get some learnings from that, and, you know, potentially make sure that it's a little bit of a different thing. Okay, so there's a game called Garbage Day. This looks like it comes in a trash can, which is cute. I don't think that's it. Garbage board games. Oh man. This is okay. I don't mean games that are garbage. Okay. I think it might be this Garbage Day. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I get it. I get it. So for this game, it's... that's pretty clever. This is basically the trash piling game, right? The game you play if you ever had roommates where you're piling trash on top of the trash can, and as long as it doesn't fall, you don't have to take it out, but if the trash falls, whoever makes it fall has to take it out. So that's pretty cool. I like that. It's definitely different enough from what we're talking about here, but it's a good reference material there. Cool. What's that old shark game that you tried to take plastic treasure out of its mouth, but its mouth can snap shut? Oh my gosh, that sounds terrifying. Okay, Garbage Day. Yeah, that was the one that I had found. I should just look in the chat with all you smart people. Oh, I just love looking at all these dexterity games. I mean, there are a lot of dexterity games out there, but every time I play a new one, it feels fun and different. I don't think I've ever met a dexterity game that I didn't like. Anything Tokyo Highway, Men at Work is another recent one that I played. Even playing Jenga. Shoot, I'm blanking on the name of the other one that came out from Prospero Hall recently. But yeah, there's all the dexterity games. Oh, it's not really a dexterity game, but a physical component stacking game. Team 3, super fun. All of those, they seem to share the aspect that they're pretty easy to learn, great for different types of gamer groups, they play pretty fast, and you get a lot of fun per minute as a unit. Never thought about that before. I'm going to sidebar. I'm going to start using FPM, fun per minute, as a measurement for games. So if you include, like, per minute, the time spent on purchasing a game, learning a game, teaching a game, and playing the game, the whole total time taken on a game, and then the amount of fun that you have in that game. And I mean, it's a very basic measurement, right? Because there's different types of fun, different people enjoy different types of games. There's satisfaction in mastering and playing a very long, complex game. But for just the juice, like the energy and excitement and drama of dexterity games, it's hard to beat the fun per minute. And a lot of these games, you can play. Certain conventions will have displays of dexterity games. You can hop in there and just play for 2 minutes and already be having fun, even if you don't really know what's going on. So I think it's an area in which there's a lot of games, but I think there can also be a lot more games. Shark mouth snaps shut. Game. Importantly, game as part of that. Ooh, Snappy Shark. Surprise, surprise. Oh wait, Shark Bite. Jaws game. There's like multiple of these. Shark Bite. She's... Okay, well, you're using, at least in the Shark Bite game, you're using a fishing rod and not your fingers, so that's a little less scary. That was Zin PhD with the Garbage Day recommendations. Thank you for that. Cool. I like this, and that's something, a dexterity game isn't something I really worked on. We had talked about that Smashing Cars game a few weeks ago, where there would be cubes piled on top of the cars, and you would hit them into each other to simulate a demolition derby. Which I did actually buy Lego cars to try that out, and some wooden blocks, so closer to prototyping that. But I like this idea of working on some more viscerally physical games, I think is a good way to put it. Oh my gosh, speaking of which, that's kind of a good company name for publication. I feel like it does what's on the tin, right? Viscerally physical games, where you feel very intense, visceral drama, excitement. I feel like that'd be a fun type of game to play around with. Game Knowledge says, I mostly don't get enthused about dexterity games that require fine motor control. Yes. I'm on drugs now to control an age-related tremor. And fine motor control can be really iffy most days. Stuff that relies more on gross motor control, gravity's edge isn't bad in this, are still pretty doable. At least give me an illusion I might be able to win. That's a really important point. I'm trying to think of the dexterity games. Yeah, I agree on that point too. I think, like, especially for kids in particular, the fine motor control, there's a certain age, I think it's between 4 to 6-ish, where kids, maybe 3 to 6-ish, where kids just have this absolute confidence. It's before they kind of get caught up in how well they'll do with things. And I've noticed with Rhino here, or Animal Pun Animal, they're just like boop and drop it, and because they're so confident, often they're really good at that type of game. But as you become an adult, as you get inside your own head, those things can get to be a little trickier. Or gameologists, like you said, with certain conditions, they can be a little trickier. So yeah, I would like this to be more gross motor skills. I want it to be something, I mean, with all my games, I want to make them available to as broad of an audience as possible. So that is something, and that's why I think it's less, maybe a little bit balancing. Like, maybe you'd have the option to have some super skinny branches. But yeah, because I also, the finer the motor control necessary for the game, I think I enjoy it a little bit less. Like Men in Work, doing the beams, Catch the Moon, I think is pretty good for this. I don't know if you've tried that one yet, and if that falls within the sphere of this. But in Men at Work, for example, balancing the beams and the workers is pretty good, but putting that little brick on the worker's arm and balancing that can be a little bit tricky. Cool. Lots of fun ideas. Lots of fun iguana balancing ideas. Got a little bit more time for our stream today. Maybe if anyone else wants to brainstorm about anything, has any questions about game ideas, anything you're working on, feel free. We can chat about that as well. Or we can just keep coming up with more Falling Iguanas game. I like this practice of starting with an idea or a theme and taking it in different directions, because I think it can be really easy to have a very rigid picture of a game. You think of a theme, like weaving, for example, and you get very fixated on saying, well, this weaving game, it has to have thread in it, and you have to physically be weaving, or sheets of paper that you're physically weaving together. And having a very strong vision can be good, but sometimes it can be helpful to say, hey, I want to make a weaving game, but maybe it's a physical weaving game. Maybe I'm placing cards on top of each other. Maybe it's all on the cards and I'm making a pattern. Like my friend's game Calico, for example, that recently funded on Kickstarter. It's a quilt making game. It is a tile placement game. So it's not about physically quilting things together. I think there's a lot of different directions you can take most themes in. It's going to be fun to see how different the ideas that you come up with can be. For this Iguana game, for example, we have our dexterity version, and maybe there is a deck builder version. It's like, what would the deck builder version of this game look like? Deck builder. So, okay. So here's an idea, game idea. Frozen Iguanas deck builder. So you have a temperature deck. Let's see. Warm days or warm, say warmth and coldness. Events, put more coldness into your deck. Each day you lay out a number of weather factors to determine the temperature. If your deck, if you lay out, let's say if your tableau ends up being too cold, some of your iguanas fall out of the trees. I don't know if this idea works totally well for this theme, but this theme has inspired this idea, and this is kind of cool and unique for a deck builder. So I like deck builders. So many cool ideas. I'm working on many different versions of deck builders because I love it as a concept. Wow, that's a very awkwardly shaped deck. You have your deck. Has a certain composition. You acquire bad cards over time. Instead of getting a hand, each turn you would get a tableau. As cards laid face up in front of you from your deck. And resolve. There would have to be something else to it than just that, because I feel like there needs to be a little bit more control over exactly what you're doing. Because if you just get bad stuff in your deck and your deck becomes worse and worse over time, you don't have any control over that. So maybe there's some way that you can manipulate this, or some of the cards give you powers, like maybe it's a really cold card when you draw it. You might put a card in your deck that's negative 10 degrees, but it has a very good effect when drawn, for example. So again, not necessarily working for this theme, but I like that as a concept. Tokyo Highway, but with iguanas. Yeah, no, exactly. That's kind of what I was going for. Different movement type cards. Climb, jump, etc. Cold cards are junk cards. Yeah. So you could have movement cards and junk cards in your deck. Email just says, could be fun to have iguanas, weather, and tool cards. Got to play iguanas to your tableau if you want to catch them when they freeze. And playing multiple frosts tools might let you run to your opponent's tableaus to grab some of the iguanas on the landscape there. Yeah, so this is a different direction for the game. Before, we were all iguanas, or multiple iguanas and one human. But in this version... Oops. Ah. We're all iguana catchers / iguana rehomers. So we want it to get cold enough to catch the iguanas. So the cold cards could be junk or they could be good for us, having multiple purposes. I like that. But we need to add enough iguanas to get points when the big freeze happens. Tools and stuff for modification. Ooh, I like, and maybe there's your own tableau and a central tableau. Maybe the cold cards in the center are a timer. When you place them, the clock ticks down. There's only one big freeze per game. You need to be ready for it. So that's an interesting endgame condition where if anyone draws a cold card, it gets put in front of everyone, and then each player is like building their own little iguana habitat and trying to extend maybe into other people's territories. Maybe you can interact with the iguanas next to you, your neighbor's iguanas. Our own iguana tree to collect branches, locations for iguanas, the iguanas themselves, iguana storage, tech tool cards. Huh. Oh man, this is so funny. This idea, like you're getting multiple cards into your deck. And maybe you choose from one card from the temperature market, mostly cold, some warm, and then cards from other markets, branches, iguanas, tools, etc. So in the beginning you might want to get more branches, because if an iguana comes, because you're taking cards from your deck and putting them face up in front of you, if an iguana comes out and there's no branch for it, it goes away or gets shuffled or whatever. Oh my gosh, there's no branch for it. Way. Gets shuffled back in. Yeah, maybe there's one freeze. Maybe there are a few mini freezes. Letting you cash. So it's an interesting game because it's not just about you freezing the iguanas to capture them, but you're also building out this little iguana habitat. Yeah. Seems kind of fun. I kind of like that. Now I have 2 falling iguana games. How am I going to make all of them? How much space is there in the market for freezing iguana games? This one, again, I feel for a falling iguana game, there's a lot to be gained from having them physically fall. So for a theme for this, I could see this game potentially having different themes. Not necessarily falling iguanas, but anything where you're placing things in a habitat, catching things out of the habitat, putting baskets under the branches. Under the branches when the iguanas fall. This is combined deck building tableau thing. Seems pretty interesting. I feel like you might need some more chaff in there. Probably need a few extra components to this, but it sounds like there's some fun stuff in there. Habitators. Cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's a deck building version of the Falling Iguanas game. What else? Worker placement. Could have people walking around to the different trees collecting the iguanas. Could have something about strategic dropping. By the way, I realize if you're just joining us here in the show, it might be a little confusing exactly what's happening. But apparently there's this phenomenon in Florida where iguanas, they live in trees. If it gets too cold, because they're cold-blooded, they can't function as well, so they fall out of the trees. You have to watch out having them hit you in the head. So we talked about doing a stacking dexterity game based on this theme. Talked about doing a deck builder based on this theme. Now I'm talking about strategic dropping. So maybe your goal is to drop the iguanas onto targets. I think this still falls under the category of dexterity game. I feel any game where you're physically using objects is called a dexterity game. Physically manipulating things. Goal is to as you're trying to land on people's heads or different targets. Maybe you are physically lifting excuse me, the iguanas and dropping them down. It seems too easy though. It seems like you need to make it a little trickier. Maybe you're placing targets strategically under precariously. Ooh, got hordes there all of a sudden. Placing targets strategically under precariously balanced. Hit or shake the tree to simulate temperature dropping. Temperature. Game Out just says, okay, falling iguanas. Build a hat with multiple wire hangers sticking out of it with hooks at the end. Hang plastic iguanas from the hooks. Place the hat on one player. All other players try to hit the wires with chopstick-sized rods to get iguanas to fall. You only get to score the iguanas you can knock loose and catch. That actually sounds super fun. Nailed it. Hell yeah. Maybe they're foam rods instead. Proof to prevent eyes getting poked out. But iguanas instead of food. Iguana warfare. Chow crown? Dang. I feel like there's just a whole world of games that I am not even aware of. Oops. Yeah. Especially the family game, mass market, kids game market. There's just so much fascinating stuff there. Like, that's a real thing? Iguana warfare. I mean, that's a cool idea. I like that. Yeah, that's it. We did it. We got our cool idea for the day. Did I put this link on my page? I think so. Man, and now, like, what are other ways you can projectile iguanas? Iguana catapults. Launching iguanas. I guess that doesn't quite represent the freezing. Ooh. This would be a little anti-thematic if you were on... If the iguanas were frozen into icicles and the icicles were melting. Icicles melt and eventually iguanas fall. This could take a really long time though, depending on the thickness of the icicle. Or they could be embedded in silly putty. Slowly falling towards the ground. Or sliding down an ice luge. All these ideas seem pretty crazy, but I mean, that's the cool thing about a brainstorm. Is you come up with all sorts of fun, crazy ideas. And maybe most of them are pretty unreasonable, but one or two of them is going to stick out as the diamond in the rough. And that completely fun, new, weird game idea, like this hat thing. I think that's a very cool idea. I want to see it, gameologist. I want to see it as your next prototype. Oh, pass the puppy? Is that peeing pup? Oh, there's pass the pup and peeing pup. There's multiple pup passing games. Okay, if you're holding the puppy. So peeing pup, the pup actually pees on you. Pass the pup is the music stops. So depends on the version you want, depends on how wet you're gonna get. Game out is Iguana Pops. Comes with an iguana-shaped ice mold. Gotta catch the iguanas before they melt. See, look. How many board games come with ice molds? This is getting into the territory of the edible games, which is cool too. I want to make an edible game. I think that would be a super fun board game design challenge to get into. Whew. Cool. Came up with some good ideas today. Good job, team. Fun. Lots of creativity in this session. I think the iguanas falling from trees theme is a very rich and fertile land for coming up with fun new stuff. As always, if anyone is inspired by any of these ideas, comes up with things based on what we talked about today, feel free to take them and run with them. I cannot possibly make enough games for all the ideas we come up with in this stream. Which makes me kind of sad because there's so many really cool ideas that I would love to play. I'm like, I don't have time to make all these games. When are all these games gonna happen? But hopefully take some more time, refocus my efforts. I want to, I know I've said this before, but I want to take some time to start just playing around with and prototyping the things that we talk about in this session, because I think it's a good practice. The ideation is really fun and useful, but actually building prototypes from the stuff we talk about is also another fun and useful step. Sarah says, I'm thinking of the peeing one, which sounds really classy. The peeing one, you know. Oh, game with an ice mold? What? Huh. I've had a copy of my Holy Grail game Ice Cube for years, but I've never been able to play as the tray was missing. I can finally put Milton through his paces. Oh my gosh, it's like feet. I made my own ice cube. I would call him Milton. The game that uses real ice cubes. Oh my gosh, how is there always a thing? There's always a thing. Huh. I love it. I'm like, is there a game for that thing? Of course there is. Man, what will they think of next? How does this game actually work? There's not a lot of gameplay. You spin a spinner and then do whatever it says to an opponent's ice cube. Last ice cube still alive wins. That's awesome. That's so clever. Alright, cool. I think that's enough brainstorming for one day. Lots of great ideas here. Yeah, as always, thank you so much for joining me on my stream. I find this super useful to ideate and come up with lots of new game design ideas. If there's anything that you're not seeing in the stream that you'd like to see more of, definitely hit me up. I can always chat on here or chat on Twitter at @EmmaLarkins. Always like talking to people about game design. Yeah, this is fun. I will be doing my regular Thursday stream. Check my calendar for that. Thursday should be good. Yeah. Thursday we have our casual gaming stream. Usually play some Magic the Gathering, Limited. Super fun. Just chill, play some games, me and Phil. And then every Tuesday I'll do this board game design stream. Usually mostly brainstorming, ideating things, sometimes churning and chugging away on one of the games that I'm actively working on. Sometimes just a pure brainstorm like this, and then just general game industry chatting as well. Super fun. Love hanging out with you all. Always have a great time. I always feel so fun and motivated to get all these really cool ideas out of our brains and onto paper. Thank you all for your inspirations and lovely ideas and creativity. It's always great spending some time with y'all. Oh my gosh. Cindy Rob says, next week's theme is Nostradamus versus Rasputin. I'm not even sure. I'll have to do some more research on that because I don't even know what that means. But yeah, I'm going to make the... I'm going to make the stream doc for right now, so it's going to be in paper. I'm going to write that down. It's a promise. We'll do it. We'll get some Nostradamus versus Rasputin action. I'm sure we'll come up with many cool, fun, weird games based on that theme. Alright, folks. That's about it for me for today. Thanks again for joining. If you like what you see here, you can follow the channel. You can also subscribe. If you have Amazon Prime, you get free subscriptions, which is a super fun way to use something. Toss me a couple of bucks. Help support what we do here on the show. Catch you in just a couple of days. Till then, have fun and enjoy the start of your 2020.